Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Hey, you guys doing today? It's good to see you. I'm Daniel. I'm on the team here. And Happy New Year to you. If you weren't here last weekend, we'll say that for a few more weeks to catch everyone here through the new year. Hope you guys are doing well. I love seeing so many people here at the beginning of the year that are really kicking off the year with a real heart to establish spiritual momentum. There is something so significant about establishing momentum in our lives where we really kick it off and get going. And you know what? You know this to be true as I do too, that momentum is established through really a series of consecutive victories in our lives. And when we secure a victory, it really creates this forward momentum in our lives. And I pray that you would experience that this year. I pray that 2018 will be your year. I pray it will be a great year of breakthrough, etc., and favor in your life. This weekend, we are nearing the end of our series in the book of Acts, and so if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn with me, not to Acts, but also to Isaiah 54. Isaiah 54. We are using this weekend the book of Acts to really create a canvas for us to paint a picture of who we are as a church. These last couple of months, we've gone through the book of Acts, and we've really taught it exegetically. We've gone line by line, verse by verse, through so much of the narrative, and I really hope it's been stirring to your heart. It's certainly been stirring to mine and to so many as the emails indicate. Two necessary viewpoints. Anytime you study the book of Acts, and I want to provide this because it will kind of create a context for our message this weekend. Anytime you study the narrative of the book of Acts, you need to approach it through two necessary viewpoints. Number one, you need to view the narrative as descriptive. Much like a history book, it is descriptive of what God has done. However, oftentimes churches, and I'm not trying to be pejorative here in any way, but oftentimes churches will stall out there and say the book of Acts is merely purely a descriptive book of history of how the early church began. I happen to believe that the second viewpoint is arguably the more significant viewpoint, where you've got descriptive. I believe the book of Acts is prescriptive. I believe it's a picture of what God can do in the church today. In the same way that God has done it once, we can pray and believe for God to do it again. I think that's the reason that I've been so excited about studying this narrative here the last couple of months and for another few weekends, because in the same way that the book of Acts kind of declares the radical formational moments of the early church, in that same way, it now begs of us, it invites us to go and boldly be the newest chapter of the early church, hence our church. I believe that that is God's mandate in our lives, and I think that's one of the primary reasons that I've been so excited going through this text. If you've missed any of the messages here the last couple of months, as many of you might have, if you've just found Mountain Springs, you can go back online, you can cherry pick the best messages, go ahead and look for your favorite text in the book of Acts. You can go ahead and download those on our mobile app or on our website. However, I've got good news for you. If you come next weekend, I'm going to save you a lot of time. I'm going to summarize the entire book of Acts next weekend, and then we're going to celebrate with baptism. So, choose this week to work out with me in your ear. Don't do that. Or come next weekend and get the whole series in one weekend. Come next weekend. I'm just saying, come next weekend. Hey, anyway, last weekend, here's what we did. We summarized 2017. We talked about what God had done last year. It was an incredible weekend where we talked about, look at what God has done. Look at all the great things that God has done. And we kind of talked a little bit about the future. This weekend, though, I'm going to do something this weekend that we have yet to do ever in this environment on a Sunday morning, Saturday night service. I'm going to share this weekend something that God burdened my heart with over a year ago. About a year and a half ago, God began to stir in my life what was a ministry pathway for the local church. A ministry pathway, a necessary ministry pathway that our local church and the broader local church could follow really to impact our community. So, if you have the piece of paper that's under the chair in front of you or under the chair directly beneath you, if you're really fast, grab the one in front of you. It's easy to reach. Just the person in front of you might not appreciate that, so do it quickly. Grab that piece of paper. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to do that every person dreams about doing, and that is doodling in church. You have permission to doodle in church this weekend. If you need a pen, there are pens on the walls there, or you can just raise your hand frantically, and someone might get you one, or pray for you at least, but they might get you a pen. But anyway, you're going to need a pen this weekend. Also, if you want to use the app, we're really close to 4,000 downloads of the app, which is just amazing, by the way. If you use the app, you're one of 4,000 people that use the app, many of whom have push notifications turned on. But if you haven't got the app, you can download that right now, Mountain Springs Church, in the Android store, the iTunes store, whatever store, Amazon, I'm sure I find any store, and you just go ahead and download the Mountain Springs app, and then you can scroll to the bottom, you'll see what we're talking about this weekend. But here this weekend, I'm going to share with you something that we have not shared other than in team environments and elder environments, but it's something that God has burdened my heart with. So without further ado, let's dig into Isaiah 54. But first, let me share with you a word that God has laid on my heart for this year. Every October, I pray about a word that I believe is indicative or even arguably prophetic for the upcoming year of my life. As a married man, as a father of 7 kids, now 8 kids, including a son-in-law, as a leader in the local church, as a server, as a servant, as somebody that contributes in the work of God here in our community. I always pray. Last October, as I prayed, God stirred my heart with the word multiply. The word multiply. And God really spoke to me that I ought to approach my life this year through the lens of multiplication, not subtraction or addition, but the power of multiplication. I love what the dictionary says about multiply. It says to increase in number, especially greatly. I want to approach my life this year through that lens of God doing something greatly in my life to where the increase is beyond what I can do. How many of you guys would relate that you want in your life this year only those things that God can do, not in your own strength, but you want God to do more? That's my prayer. That's my prayer this year. Well, and it leads itself into a text that God also laid on my heart. Isaiah 54, verse 2, 3, and the first part of verse 4. Incidentally, I believe that verse 2 of Isaiah 54 is really a picture of this year. I believe that verse 3 is a picture of next year, 2019, and I believe the fear not phrase is one that we ought to adopt for the next 24 months and obviously onwards. Verse 2, it says, enlarge the place of your tent. Let the curtains of your habitations be stretched out. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you will spread abroad to the right and to the left, and your offspring will possess the nations and will people the desolate cities. Fear not. Fear not. I hope that you see the convergence of theme there. Multiply, lengthen, strengthen, deepen, fear not. I pray that this will be a year of significant breakthrough over Mountain Springs Church and in your life, that you would experience the power of multiplication. I love the local church. If you know me at all well, that you'll know that I love the local church. Not the building, not the campus, not the land, not the infrastructure, the people that are the local church. And I so happen to believe that blemish and all, black eye and all, that the local church remains the vehicle of choice that God chooses to use to reveal his purposes throughout all of humanity. I believe that God happens to use the local church. However, and you're about to hear a series of howevers. However, as we look at cultural trends and as we look at shifting attitudes, there is among culture and shifting attitudes this effort to deplete or even arguably delete the work and the value, the perceived value and the contribution of the local church. You know it to be true in culture. You know it to be true in your work environment, in your neighborhoods. There is this effort through culture and through shifting attitudes to really remove the perceived value of the local church. I believe, though, that with a day of poverty and racial tension and political issues, no matter which side of the aisles and which color of skin you might have and which socioeconomic framework you might come from, I believe that in the day, this year, this season, this chapter of American history, that the voice of the local church ought to become brighter, bolder, stronger, more compassionate than ever before because the world needs it. Whether you're in your football environment or whether you're in your soccer environment, speaking personally, or whether you're in some sort of personal environment in your home or at work, there is a longing for the voice of the Lord to speak more boldly. People are desperate. People are looking for hope. People are asking for a breakthrough in their life. It's so significant that the church answers the question of how will she speak in today's world. Also, I believe that the church ought to reimagine her place in culture. Here's the reason it's so significant, what I'm about to share this weekend. Here's why. As you look across the nation right now, whether you look from the East Coast, the West Coast, north to south, no matter where you look, no matter the culture, you will find churches doing one of two extremes as it relates to culture. The conversation today is around culture. How do we penetrate? How do we break through? How do we bring Jesus into our world environment? How do we pray, your kingdom come, your will be done here in my workplace as it is in heaven? Churches do one of two extremes. I'm going to step over here in a second, then I'm going to step over here, and I'm going to identify two different camps, extreme camps of churches. The first one is over here. Certain churches that exist in our country, through desiring to speak into culture, have entirely acquiesced to culture. They have allowed the cultural narrative to become the narrative and the storyline of their church. There is no noticeable difference between their values, world values, kingdom values. There is no difference in terms of the way they live and the way the world lives, and the kingdom's up here going, what's going on? If you want a banner phrase of churches that have acquiesced to culture, the banner phrase would be one of liberalism. Liberalism. Let me tell you, and I don't want to be pejorative towards a name of a church. I'm not going to list a name of a church. That's not redemptive, not helpful. But a type of a church, liberalism. Those kind of churches that sell out to culture will never be packed out with people. Here's why. People are longing for something unique. They're longing for something true. They're longing for something gritty. Look what Jesus says. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its taste and there's nothing uniquely different, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. These kind of churches will not thrive. Arguably, they will not even survive because people are looking for something of transformation. As a church, there cannot be this liberalism within our church because we lose our voice to speak into culture. They're trying to speak into culture, but they've acquiesced by doing so. Over here on the other extreme, you have churches through an effort of really trying to maintain their purity through being repulsed by culture, have almost built this fortress around their church. Much like many Americans love to go to England and look at the castles, and they love to go there. In many ways, like these churches, because they're repulsed by the culture, they're trying to say, we need to build a wall, a fortress around our church to guard our theological purity because we are so repulsed by what's going on in the world. And what they do is they dig out this little moat around the walls of their church, and they build a guarded entry point, and they call that the front door of their church. They are repulsed by culture. The banner of the phrase over here would be liberalism. The banner over this church would be legalism. Let me tell you, God has never called the church to become this enforcer of the rules, but rather an outpost of grace. God has called the church to be an outpost of grace. So Mountain Springs can be neither one of these. Mountain Springs will not be a church of liberalism, but it will not be a church of legalism. Here's why. I believe there is this radical ground in the middle, and it's called the label of love. The love. May there be love in our lives as we would experience. I love what Jesus said. He says, the Son of Man, speaking of himself, came eating and drinking, and they say, look at him. He is a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Pay attention to the way he says that. A friend of tax collectors and sinners. They remained in the realm of sinning, but Jesus says, I will be their friend. There is something uniquely different about Jesus, though they're struggling, while he says, I will be a friend, I will not be detached, I will become one, I will lead people towards truth. Our church has to become the kind of church, and that's the reason this is so significant, what I'm going to share this weekend, because if we're not careful, we reimagine our place as a church through do we acquiesce or do we be repulsed by? We have to engage and have a voice therein. We have to be a church. Jesus said when he saw the multitudes, he was moved by compassion because they were helpless, they were harassed, and he said, we have got to do something to help these people. In these times of desperation, what our world needs is a biblically faithful, evangelistically fruitful, empowered by the Holy Spirit, life-transformational Christianity, because that gives hope to the hopeless. And in a day where it appears that Christendom is dying off and the church has lost the culture war, let me tell you, the battle cry of Jesus remains that I will build my church and the gates of hell shall not prevail. That means everything will come to an end. But the work of God through the local church, I will build my church, and those gates shall not prevail against it. It's so significant that we as a church determine who we're going to be, and we really reimagine our voice in culture. So what I want to do over the next 3.5 hours is walk you, just kidding. What I want to do this weekend is I want to walk you through over the next 20 minutes or 18 to 20 minutes, I want to walk you through what is the ministry pathway. I'm going to move from preaching to more teaching at this point, kind of teach you through what is a pathway that I believe that God is calling Mountain Springs to embark upon. It all begins with a funnel. It all begins with a funnel. I believe that God has called the local church to establish a funnel, a large funnel for people to enter into the local church. You know what a funnel is? A large opening that allows a product to funnel through into a smaller spout into whatever it is that you're pouring into. For me personally, I used to siphon gasoline from my parents' vehicle. Anyone's ever siphoned gasoline? It is a thrill until you go, until you taste it. And then you cap it, and then you put it into your gas can, and then you siphon it, and your mom comes out to run and go get groceries, and the gas gauge has gone down, and she just thinks my dad's been driving. Sure enough, I'm over there with my pipe and my gas can, pouring it through the funnel into my little PW50, ripping through the community as a 4-year-old. That was a great day. My greatest day ever. But there was a funnel, and the funnel allowed for it to get in. Here is a church, I believe that God is calling us, don't miss this, to create a funnel in the same way that Jesus said, I came to seek and to save the lost. We have to fling wide the doorways of this church. We have to allow people to flood into our church. That is the mission, that is the mandate that God has given to us. Jesus says, love one another. For love is from God. Whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Verse 8 of 1 John 4, 7 and 8. Anyone who does not love, not liberalism, not legalism, but anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. We will create a funnel that will allow people to belong before they believe in the local church. You go, wait. Christianity is a behavioral thing. It's really not. When you think of the way you were acting, Jesus said, while you were still sinning, Christ died for you. I died for you while your behavior was not lining up with your call. As a church, we have to go out of our way. This line that you see from the top right to the lower left, this diagonal line represents a spiritual divide. As a church, we have got to seek people to see them move from belonging before they believe across that line into reaching Jesus Christ. And there are two ways that we do so. Number one is the word relate. As a church, we have got to relate with people throughout our community. The greatest, most innate need of humanity is to relate and to experience the beauty of relationship. Even at the earlier service this weekend, there was a gentleman in this service that many years ago, God used the power of relationship to kick him into a process that you're looking at behind me. Notice the arrow. The arrow speaks about movement in the direction of evangelism and development. As a church, the gospel says, go into all of the world, make disciples, but it backs up and it says, what can you do to seek and to save the lost? That's the reason Jesus came. Through relationship, we create a connection with somebody for them to come to a place to where they can experience truth. Jesus says when he saw the crowds, as I mentioned a moment ago, he had compassion on them. They were sheep without a shepherd. Compassion welcomes everyone. Your colleagues, your neighbors, your friends. Compassion welcomes everyone. As a church, man, I'm going to get fired up this weekend. You think I'm excited. I'm just trying to keep it capped. We have got to strip this church of all forms of religiosity to where we can prioritize relationship, because religion leads to rebellion, relationship leads to repentance. We have got to create environments of relationship in this church where we intentionally say we're going to go out of our way to create relationship. One of the reasons we dropped some coin recently over our cafe and our environment outside of these doors is we want to make the lobby floor sticky. Not like second graders were like syrup everywhere, but like sticky in that there is this relational context where people can slow down. We believe that if we can cause people when they walk out of these doors on the weekend to slow down, talk to somebody, we have gone an awful long way to creating relationship, to create that point through compassion of relating to them in their busted lives and their broken dreams, that we might say there is hope for you. But we can't just stay at the point of relationship. We've got to move into the second realm, which is partnership. We love people too much to let them stay the way they currently are. My friend a few years ago, I was so passionately pursuing him through relationship, I was like, brother, you've got to move beyond into the realm of partnership. We've got to see you contribute. May we create environments as a church through seeking people that we are partnering with what God is doing in our community, but also creating environments here for people to contribute. I got an email on Christmas Eve, or shortly thereafter, from a gentleman in our church. He gave me permission to use his name. His name is Johnny. He's a DJ on local radio. And he was here at Christmas. And God so stirred his heart when he saw the responses going up on Christmas Eve of people saying, I'm hopeless, I need Jesus, that God spoke to his heart and said, remember, you were like that. Remember, you're not far from this. And God spoke to his heart about how can he partner with people that are currently in this realm to where he can establish relationship, but he can pour his life into those people. May we create environments where we can partner. So the first realm is seek. And that realm culminates with the transition point from the first realm into the second, and that word is save. We unapologetically need to do all that we can do to lead people into a dynamic relationship with Jesus Christ. You'll see us on weekends give altar calls increasingly this year. We don't want to be every weekend, anyone, the buses will wait, come forward, come forward. But at the same time, we want to create environments where people can come into a relationship with Jesus Christ, because that is the reason we're here. We're here to say, look at Jesus. We want to point you to Jesus. But the church has to seek. The church has to create relationship, because all of a sudden the people with a busted life and a broken dream and a shattered hope all of a sudden start to have a better outlook on life, and then it says breakthrough experience. But as a church, don't miss this next phrase. As a church, I believe that the gospel is not just to get you rescued from brokenness, but it's to restore you into wholeness, to send you into your realm of opportunity. As a church, as much as we need to seek, we need to send. We need to send the saved in the same way that we are seeking the hurting. I believe that when we are saved, we're not just saved from our story. Some of you, God has saved you from divorce. God has saved you from some form of separation. God is restoring you. I want you to hear this weekend. Wherever you're at in this world, wherever you're at in life and relationship, man, we are so committed to seeing restoration in your life. Don't give up yet. Don't give up. Keep praying. Keep pressing on. Keep moving forward. Keep going forward. We're seeking a work of God in your life. But when you experience the grace of God and you say, man, I'm saved, God's got a hold of my life, you're not just saved from your story. You're saved for obedience and mission. There is something of the gospel that says you are now saved for something. The third realm is the realm discipleship. The third realm is the realm discipleship, and it's a core priority in all that we're about. Can I be honest with you? The Big C church is not doing a very good job with discipleship. The Big C church is not doing a great job in discipleship. Recently, there was a survey. Around 14,000 to 18,000 churches turned in their response to the question of, are you doing a great job, or how well would you describe you are discipling new believers? 1% of the churches surveyed said, yes, quote, we are doing a great job discipling new believers. Therefore, 99% of the churches in our country said, yeah, our bad, we're not doing a good job discipling people. Well, that's kind of a problem. Like, that's you going to the mechanic saying, I've got a problem with my vehicle. And they're like, tough luck, dude. We have no idea. Well, aren't you a mechanic? Nope, we just have the sign outside. We have no idea what we're doing when you come inside. But we will charge you $630 because your blinker fluid's low. Like, here's what's going on. Like, we have got to solve this problem. We have got to solve this issue, because we need to see a surge of vibrant discipleship. Can I tell you what discipleship is? Discipleship at its core speaks more about a journey. It speaks more about the journey than the destination. It speaks more about the direction of your life. And at its core, discipleship is authentic relationship. We grow in discipleship through relationship. One of the reasons that the church struggles with discipleship is because, and again, don't misread what I'm saying, we've formalized it to the extent to where go to this class, follow this curriculum, do this and do that, and you're discipled. There is a point of that. There is a realm of that. There is a need for that, but not with the absence of relationship, but relationship established through that. It's one of the reasons I love what we're doing here with our kids and our young people through Awana and our kids ministry. We're saying, through the context of relationship, we want to see you memorize Scripture and apply it to your lives. Discipleship is predominantly relationship. As a church, we have got to disciple people. We've got to do it better. We've got to personalize, and we've got to come around and create authentic realms of discipleship for people. So let's review where we're at. I'm going to turn back and I'm going to do everything I can to not tap this TV, because every part of me wants to just get fired up and tap this TV. As a church, we need to create environments where we have created a funnel for Luke 19 that Jesus said, I came to seek and save the lost. While you were still sinners, Christ died for you. I died for you. Therefore, belong before you believe. Broken people, busted hopes, establishing relationship through seeking their lives. We create, through compassion, realms where we're moving them in the direction of evangelism and development. We get them into a point of partnering. They start to serve. They start to contribute here at Mountain Springs. They have a better outlook. They begin to experience breakthrough. Then you start to see identity is shaped through discipleship. You show somebody who their identity is in Jesus Christ, they become unstoppable. Because my identity is not based upon how much I earn. My identity is not based upon how much I have in savings. My identity is not based upon my pain of my divorce. My identity is based in Jesus Christ. You reveal that to somebody, they become unstoppable through the conviction and the work of the Holy Spirit, which culminates in the fourth realm, and that is leadership. Leadership. I believe that God is calling Mountain Springs Church to fuel the future of the local church through raising up leaders. As with any organization, if you guys are in leadership, you'll know this to be true. As with any organization, the organization is only as good as the leaders that lead over it. People don't necessarily leave jobs, they leave people. They go, I don't want to work for that person anymore. I love my job. I don't want to work for that person anymore. Organizations are only as strong and as healthy as the leaders. I believe that God is calling us to raise up leaders for the future of the local church. I want to say an obvious statement. The obvious statement is this: America's pastors are getting older. Don't look at my hairline. America's pastors are getting older. If I wear a baseball cap, I look 30-something. Without it, I look like my dad. Anyway, here it is. America's pastors are getting older. And if you don't know this to be true, but 25 years ago, the median age of senior pastors in our country, 25 years ago, was 44. Today, the median age of senior pastors is 54. The very prospect is real that in the next 10 to 15 years, we will face the reality that we do not have young, spirit-filled men and women leading the churches of our nation. We will have an aging populace leading. God has burdened my heart that we will do something to raise up leaders to fuel the future of the local church. Wouldn't it be something if we could, through a 3-year process, take somebody who currently is here saying, I'm broken, through a process of compassion, connection, conviction, and contribution, send them to the field. The field says in John 4, the fields are white unto harvest, but the workers are few. May God grant us the opportunity and the ability to raise up leaders, predicated upon discipleship. There are 2 primary realms that we are all about as a church. The first realm is life transformation. The second realm is leadership training. The first one right here, life transformation. The second one, leadership training. But then pay attention to what's going on inside of here. Right here, you see mentoring relationships. You see different individuals, men and women. I want you to pay attention, if you can see it, which without my glasses you probably cannot. There is a line that connects this individual with that individual. Here's what we often do. And I realize this is now like a leadership class, and this is kind of like a church ended. Here we are now. Let's talk about psychology and life for a little bit. In the church, oftentimes when somebody is discipled, they go deeper in their own book knowledge, they go deeper in their own, in quote, discipleship, and they become more detached from people that would live in the realm of pain. If we could somehow connect these people that are in a realm of being sent through discipleship and leadership to those people that are being sought through relationship and partnership, here are 2 things that happen. In this realm, if we don't contribute across the spiritual divide, this person becomes prideful and arrogant. They become book-studied. They don't become so contributing to the world. Connect that person with here. Here's 2 things happen. This person begins to grow in the direction of development and evangelism. This person begins to fulfill their mandate and call as well. The other thing I would love to reveal to you is this. Most churches, and again, I'm not saying most churches, we're not most churches, we're different than most churches. We're just like every other church. We're just trying to be a little bit different. A lot of churches do this. They do a little bit of partnership. Hey, pass out a bulletin, serve in our kids' ministry. They do a little bit of partnership. Oh, you don't know Jesus? Okay, we'll help you. They come to faith in Jesus, and then they do a little bit of discipleship, just enough to inoculate them from some of the world, but not enough to transform them to change the world. If we could do this, swing wide the door that way to say, broken people, you can belong before you believe here. Swing wide that. All of a sudden, we can connect Luke 19 with John 4. I believe. That is what God calls us to do. I believe that God says, go seek and save the lost. At the same time, send laborers out into the field because they are whiter than you know. Whiter than you know. The tendency of our lives, and we have to be so careful of this, is that the longer that we know Jesus, the inclination of our lives is to no longer pioneer for Jesus, but to better position ourselves with Jesus. May we never lose the pioneer spirit. May we never lose the passion to pioneer. As a church, we have got to seek broken people, but we have got to send the train. You right here where you say, well, I'm discipled. You know what? Then we want to see you in your realm of discipleship and your heart contribute by helping us equip these people. You're a leader. Maybe in the next 18 to 24 months, you might be part of a team that we would send out to plant a church and start a new location, a new local church that is highly relational, putting the local back into the local church. May we be that kind of church to where we see the gospel, not just saving you from your pain, but sending you into your purpose. That, I believe, is the gospel. That is what I believe God is telling us as a church we should do. I love what Matthew 5 says. He says, you are the light of the world. You're a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but they put it on a stand, and it gives light to the whole house. How should we respond? He says, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Without doubt, as a church, we need to love this community. Without doubt, we are not going to acquiesce to culture and lose sight of the salty nature of transformation. We're not going to become so the enforcer of the rule that we no longer are an outpost of grace. We're going to be radical in that we're going to seek to transform lives, unapologetically point them to truth, unapologetically point them to who Jesus is. At the same time, be committed to every single person to say, how can we commission and send you to your redemptive potential? You, he says, are the light of the world. The light of the world. If you look at all of Scripture, the motif of Scripture is that light came into the world in the form of Jesus. Jesus lives within us. He now says, you are the light of the world. Why? Because Jesus shines out from your life to others. Never lose the pioneer spirit. Wouldn't it be something if for the next few years we were to see the 7 and the 8-year-olds transformed into leadership? The 15 through the 18-year-olds breaking free from addictions, the 38-year-olds seeing the brokenness of their lives become the story, the mess become the message, the mess become the miracle. That all of a sudden we start to change our community. Why? Because we believe that we can. Never lose the pioneer spirit, because you are the lights of the world. I want to leave you with, from the message, what it says there in your program: clear lots of ground for your tents. Make your tents large. Spread out. Think big. Use plenty of rope. Drive the tent pegs deeper. You're going to need lots of elbow room for your growing family. Friends, let's start small. But let's start somewhere. But let's start now. Let's start now. Let's believe God for a move of His Spirit throughout our community. Don't leave here today and go, man, that was a great message. Rather, leave here today and say, where is my place in this? Chart yourself in this process. Ask God to reveal to you and burden your heart for those that are not where you are. Don't see yourself as secure and saved, and this is my story. Rather say, this is my story. What can God do through my story to redeem someone else? But the light of the world, the city on a hill, it cannot be hidden. Let's be bold. Let's be believing. Let's press into the heart of God. Let me pray. Father, thank you so much, God, for all that you're doing in and through Mountain Springs. I'm so grateful, Jesus, that you would choose to use us, choose to work through us. God, this isn't a platitude. This is a humble prayer that says, God, reveal yourself to us more. Break our hearts more. That we would give our lives to see this redemptive potential fulfilled over our community, that people would say, God saved my life. In our times of desperation, God, may you appear to us in a powerful way. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen.